Give way to gravity. Deep breathe as much or as frequently as you need to center yourself. And now imagine yourself outside of a large, infinitely large garden. And there's a wall around the garden. And outside the wall, there's a large, beautiful tree. And you walk up to the tree and you metaphorically place any worries or concerns or anything that's on your heart and mind right now. You're going to leave it outside the garden at the foot of this tree. And this tree is infinite intelligence, and it will take these. It's kind of God's to-do list. So you just pin them to the tree or leave them at the tree. You can always pick them up later if you so choose. You're going to allow yourself some peace. So leaving all that there, you unburden yourself and you're going to walk along the garden wall to the gate of the garden. And you can picture this wall and this gate to be anything you want, to look any way you want, whatever suits your fancy at this moment. And you can have your angels or guides or anything like that with you. And approach the gate and see how the gate looks and see how the handle looks. And go ahead and open that gate and walk in the garden. Close the gate behind you. And that garden can look any way you want. But there is a path, and we're going to take this path. But the colors, the temperature, the weather, any animals or elementals that you want to be part of that garden are there. Whatever shows up is meant to show up. Whatever you're focused on is meant to be your focus. It is your soul guiding you, giving you the comfort and the growth that you need, are calling for. So you just kind of go with those whims. And proceed down the path. And we're going to approach some water. And this body of water can be whatever form you want it to take, whether it's a river, a pond, a lake, an ocean. It's up to you. But it's the quality of the water, it's the time we're going to spend around and in the water, that's going to be our focus. So go ahead and just imagine yourself walking down the path, and whatever body of water comes to mind. You don't need to overthink it, just go with that. And approach the edge of the water and just be with your scene, whether you're sitting or standing, that's up to you. This water is infinite abundance. That's kind of the metaphor I'm going for here. So just seeing the quality of the water, feeling its strength, its abundance, its never-endingness. Whatever qualities that give you strength and comfort, whether it's the abundance, whether it's the calmness about the water, whether it's the depth or the size, or the seeming force or strength of it. Just spend a couple minutes enjoying that, absorbing that, becoming one with those qualities. Let the water, your oneness with the water, take all your attention. Let it become your whole world. Whether you are in the water or just observing it, you can enter the water, you can feel it all around you. You're taking yourself out of your human experience, so temperature and all of that is not an issue. Just feel its ever-presence, its comfort, its never-endingness, its love for you, its no agenda, just pure giving, unending joy, unending serving your heart and your mind. Let yourself receive the love of the water 100%. Feel your safety and security is all entwined in this body of water. Feel the sense of freedom. Feel your appreciation. Feel the reality of this experience. Feel it so deeply that you can carry that experience once we leave the garden, that it is on your heart, that it is something that you can go back to in an instant, if you choose. Allow yourself to mentally leave the water or the water area and head back down the path, knowing that you can carry in your heart that experience, that oneness, and that presence of the water with you as you exit the garden. And And as much as I would like to, is maybe you want to stay right there. Start to imagine yourself back in your body, back into consciousness. But you can still have a foot in both worlds. So, allow yourself to open your eyes when you're ready. Or not, it's up to you. So, I love this metaphor of the water because I found something on the internet that had, they called it a simile, but I'm not really familiar with that word, with simile, so I used analogy. But it's kind of an allegorical representation of these, this concept, I guess, is practice that I've been working with for maybe a month or so now. And it's Buddhist in nature. It's called the 5 Hindrances. Does anybody, raise your hand if you've heard of those? Anybody? No. All right, so, Buddhism is really about mindfulness, and it's really about having that condition, living with that condition, and then basically expressing from that condition of, clear mindfulness, and that's the goal, to do that or be there, more and more towards 100%. So back to this simile or analogy with the water and these 5 hindrances. So the 5 hindrances are things that get in your way of mindfulness. And so there is, as I go through and share each of the 5 hindrances, I'll make an analogy with the water. I'll just start with the first one, but this was a nice reference point. So to think of, okay, we've got the 5 hindrances, but ideally, what is mindfulness? And so it was described in one of the things I read online. And don't feel like you have to, if you like this, but it's a lot of information, don't worry, because you can find a lot of this online. You can Google it, and there's just a ton of stuff on it that explains the 5 hindrances. But being mindful or hindrance-free would be where you're, and it's all about attention. Hindrance-free would be your attention augments the condition of mindfulness. So when you think of the water analogy, think of that as the clear, calm waters. It's abundant and full, and it's clear and calm, and that's the analogy to the state or the condition of your mind. And that's the receiving mode of your higher self, your highest version, the highest vibration of information that you could channel and express at any given moment. So, yeah, that is the clear, calm waters. In the 5 hindrances, I try to find a way to sort of memorize them. So I came up with an acronym, and the acronym is RAIDS, RAIDS. So these hindrances raid your mind of mindfulness. The first one, R, would stand for restlessness. It could also stand for remorse. So it's the inability to calm the mind. Restlessness can be worry. It's an unsettled mind. It can be jumping from the past to the future, and it's a worry. It's like the monkey mind that they talk about in Buddhism. But think about the inability to calm the mind. If you equate that to water, think of what that might be in a water analogy. What they gave in this chart online was the analogy of the water wavelets on top of the water. It's just a bunch of waves, your mind is creating the storm, the waviness. After R is A, apathy. That can be lethargic, inactivity. It's low energy. And this low energy can become like a prison. I'm sure you've all felt where you just don't want to do something. It's a half-heartedness. And they say that the primary condition is a careless attention to discontent. So basically, the condition of all these hindrances is a careless attention. You're not really putting your attention on that which would augment mindfulness. Your attention is getting distracted. So it's apathy, lethargicness, inactivity. And the water, the analogy would be an idea, is one where the water becomes overgrown with moss and algae, becomes stagnant looking and yicky. And then the next one is I. I is for ill will. This is where your negative thinking comes in. And I know when I first started working with this, I used to think negative thinking was the main thing, that was the main hindrance. If I had to name some hindrances, I would have thought, oh, negative thinking, I thought summed it all up. But when you start to get working with these, you'll see that the other ones come up as well. But ill will, it can be a dislike of anybody or any condition or situation. It's not just, oh, I wish that person would die, or I hate that driver, or I hate my mother-in-law, or whatever. This is a dislike. So anytime, and Buddhism talks about avoidance. So ill will would be about when you dislike something. And they say it usually comes from pride, jealousy, anger, or resentment. And again, it's careless attention. And I'm going to give you, a remedy, so to speak, we're going to talk about antidotes or remedies to this, in a minute after I explain these. Because obviously you can't just wish them away. They're there, and you have to respond in a loving way. Anyhow, the ill will, the water analogy would be boiling or steamy water. So if you're just getting stirred up, think of those calm waters, and it's getting boiling. You're feeling hot. You dislike something. You're getting angry. Something like that. The water's getting heated. The next one after RAI is D. D is for doubt or skepticism. It is basically it's a lack of trust. It can manifest as indecisiveness. It can feel like a disconnect from your goals and your aspirations. And the water analogy would be the water is not even there. It's like a barren land, or like the bottom of the ocean or the river is there, and there's no water there. It's like a dried up pond. Because you have doubt, you lack trust that infinite intelligence is there. The choirs of angels are all around assisting. And the water almost seems to just be a fantasy. You're so caught up in doubt and skepticism. After D, after RAID, now we have S, the last of the 5 hindrances. And that is sensory desire. That is a desire for pleasure or comfort through one of your 5 senses, through one or many of them. And that's where craving begins, or any of these things can have an attachment to it. Any of these things that you get into, whether it's the apathy, the inactivity, or the restlessness, or the doubt and indecisiveness, or the negative thinking, or the pleasure seeking, these can all be attachments. It's an attachment, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Buddhism and attachments. It's when you don't want it to end. It's really, basically, you don't want to deal with the feeling. You don't want to deal with the thing that's causing you to go to these distractions. And the water analogy for the sensory desire is Well, I didn't like the one I didn't get the one they printed on this chart. It said water mixed with paint. But for me, my experience, it's kind of like, more like water mixed with alcohol or it's like the water is tainted. And just like if you've overeaten or drank or any of these sensory experiences, it's almost like later you feel hungover, you feel intoxicated, you feel yucky, you didn't, you overate or whatever it is. So think of that as the water being tainted. Something's been added that doesn't need to be added. It's taken away the clarity of the water. So to be present with these things, obviously, if you notice one of these 5 hindrances, you notice you've gotten off center. And so you're aware of it. You are going to take yourself backwards, so to speak. It's like, what was I feeling? What's going on? One of the antidotes that they often list here is questioning. Why am I seeking pleasure? What am I avoiding? Why don't I want to accept this situation or this person at the moment? Why am I feeling a lack of trust? So basically, that will give you the answer of what's on your heart. And what's on your heart, out of the Course of Love, which talks about the importance of feeling your feelings. And I used to think I felt my feelings, my big feelings and my medium feelings, and I realized when I was working with these 5 hindrances that I don't feel my more subtle feelings. And then yesterday I realized if I felt my subtle feelings, I would never get to the bigger feelings. It's when you suppress feeling those initial feelings that they end up festering and getting bigger and bigger, and you end up in situations that you really don't want to be in until you kind of blow, I guess, with those feelings get bigger and bigger. Anyhow, Jesus says, and this whole section is all about acceptance, and that is what the Buddhism idea is. And to have that calm place of mind, and mindfulness is about accepting you're basically not what's accepting outside of yourself, but accepting your feelings. So it's not about accepting, this person you dislike that you're having ill will towards. It's not meaning you have to be around people you don't like or situations or be in discomfort. It's about, initially, it's always about feeling the feelings. It's accepting your feelings in that moment, in every given moment, accepting who you are, including your feelings, most importantly, what's on your heart right now. And when you can accept and feel your feeling, then you're back to center. And you're being grounded. And from there, you can make a better decision how you're going to go forward. But you have to do that first. He sums it up nicely in many places in here, but I'm just going to read a few paragraphs here. It says, realize that your desire for your life to be different, your desire for your unhappiness to be gone. I got to reread that. I said that wrong. Realize that your desire for your life to be different and your desire for your unhappiness to gone is very unlikely in truth to stem from details of your life. Even so, you are not called to accept what you do not like, but to accept that you don't like whatever it is you don't like. Then and only then, when you have accepted how you feel, can you respond truly. Only when you have accepted how you feel do you quit labeling good or bad. Only then can you deal with anything from a place of peace. I'm just going to keep skipping through here and reading what catches my eye. We are not then talking of acceptance. We are not, when talking of acceptance, talking of externals, but of internals. We are not talking of the old adage or prayer that calls you to accept what you cannot change, but acceptance, absolute unconditional acceptance of yourself what's on your heart. All power to affect change comes first from acceptance. Not acceptance of the way things are, but acceptance of who you are in the present. Not through acceptance of the way you want to be, but of the way you are now. Acceptance does not require any specific action, but it will lead to action that is consistent with who you are when you are fully comfortable in your acceptance of who you are. So you have to get comfortable with the feeling, the condition of what's on your heart. Okay, this acceptance is the only thing that will truly prevent judgment. We all know through unity, Buddhism, or whatever, judgment is a problem. But acceptance of what's on your heart is the key to preventing judgment. For it does not require you to be your brother's keeper, but only your own. It requires you to know yourself without judging yourself. You have been intolerant of yourself, and it was only too easy to extend this intolerance to others. So, I'm going to end with paragraph, I thought this was really interesting, paragraph 8.8, and that is today's date. 8.8, I'm going to read it again. All power to effect change comes from acceptance. All of it. You have to accept everything on your heart and what's going on at each moment. Not acceptance of the way things are, but acceptance of who you are in the present. Not through acceptance of the way you want to be, but of the way you are now. There will be many things within your life that will take some time to change, but many others that can change instantly through this radical acceptance. You will find once you have begun to practice acceptance of the present that there will be far fewer things you do not like, and that you will be shown in the relationship you have in the present the response to those that you still do have, a dislike for. So that ends my sharing of information and what's basically been on my heart lately and what I find to bring me to still waters. I'd like to open this up to some discussion.
Thank you, Theresa, for your talk on mindfulness. And it does in a bit tie into the 12 powers of will, because mindfulness would be very necessary to develop a strong will, especially a God-connected will. At this point, the service is now open for discussion, feedback, and questions. I'd like to go over some general guidelines. We ask the Zoom tribe to stay muted until you are ready to share, and after sharing, then remute yourself again. And a reminder, we will mute ourselves when Zoomers speak. If your sharing is private or personal, send us a note in the chat and we'll edit out your share from the recording. In-persons are welcome to come up and sit in the pink chair, and we'll have someone bring a mic to you. And also, everyone be mindful of your sharing time, and I would say limit it to 1 to 3 minutes and kind of think it over and condense it down and make your point quickly so everyone can have a chance to be heard and contribute. I would like to comment first that I think I already did. Mindfulness is very connected to our developing our willpower, and I like your acronym RAIDS, and I think I will review that in the Buddhist literature. It kind of adds on my research on what will is this month. So we'll now open up for sharing.
Hi. I loved both of your presentations very, very much. And they dovetailed together to me, because what I mostly see with willpower, and there is a lack of desire to express yourself because you're afraid you'll make a mistake, or that your head is hesitant to follow your heart. And I see that being a problem, that could be solved by examining one's willpower, like persistence, and also trusting that when your desire is pure, as you would get from the Buddhist methods, you get that pure acceptance, or accepting your feelings in the past, then you're open to the inspiration that can come from your higher self. And in order to be faithful to that higher self inspiration, you have to trust that your higher power will lead you where you need to go. And I guess that was one of my sort of things that I think about when people are afraid to present something or create something or present it to people. And I just want to give people encouragement through that, because that's what I get from both of those.
Thank you, Theresa. That was awesome, and I love how you brought in the Buddhism with the Course of Miracles, with the Course of Love, and combined them. And I also saw the denials, a little bit of denials that Unity talks about too. So I'm seeing these wonderful connections. And what I really liked most was what you talked about around acceptance, and that feelings were involved in that acceptance, to accept, how you're feeling in this moment, and to not make that bad or to not make that good, but to accept that. And I think that takes a lot of strength, and just be with that. I also think that those feelings lead somewhere too, if you were to stay with them. And to stay with them, it might lead to something in the past. It might lead to a thought or a belief you have about yourself that is not really working for you, that you can investigate. It might lead to something about what you really want that you're not stepping up for. So there's some honesty that comes through with acceptance. So it just opens up a whole new inner realm that you can have access to, versus putting your focus on the outside as a form of judgment. This person is wrong, this person, is not trustworthy, or whatever those judgments take form. And the other thing I like is that to be sensitive to the little feelings, the little waves, and that's also a practice. And to be mindful of those little feelings and what they're pointing to. And I'm guessing if you can do that enough times, then you'll have a mastery of changing those little feelings, and it's kind of like singing and bending a note and changing the dynamics of your voice, so that you can get on to the pitch that you want, so that you can get into sync or calibration with your own soul, and keep working that. And I would imagine that would bring you to the ocean of peace that you so well talk about. Thanks.
What came with me on all those hindrances, Theresa, for me, it takes courage, because every one of those is going to take courage of either you looking at what's hindering you, or you having faith. And many times you need courage to have faith. Anyway, that's what occurred to me. A lot of people are afraid of the water, and it just, I think, depending on where they're at, acceptance, totally like the Buddhism talking about, you're going to run into shame, fear, all these different emotions, and it's going to take courage. And it's still going in my mind. I don't know which comes first, faith or courage to have faith, or faith that you don't need courage. Anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Say thank you to everyone, both there in the church in person. Thank you, Dan and Theresa, and thank you to our Zoomers. And I've been attentively listening, but have nothing to add at the moment, other than I'm going to take some time to contemplate the lesson. Thank you.
I think what first came up to me is my will or thy will be done. So it's whether I'm being willful and stubborn, or whether I'm in the flow of grace where I feel like spiritual magic happened. I didn't get all of your 5 hindrances, the titles, down, but I really like that because my next step is really working with my feelings and not ignoring them. And you're right, it's the little subtle ones that are floating by just really quickly. I think, whoa, what was that all about? And if I take a moment and stop, it can usually lead to something else. And where I feel that feelings are really fluid, for me, it's the solid base of myself. When I enter the world of my feelings and embrace that aspect, instead of ignoring, denying, or running, that's what I'm trying not to do. Even though it may be very challenging and difficult, that sometimes it is for me. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, it takes some courage and a confidence that you get over time in just accepting your feelings. There is a story in the book of the Love Course that talks about disliking peas. And that's the thing that brings it to my mind. Because we can say, I don't like this food or that food, but when we say we don't like a person, then we're really serious, and it usually has something to do with the past, not the present. And that's why the now is so important in our judgment, part of that. Accepting where we are right now. In the future, we might like peas, but at this moment, we can accept that we don't like peas. And we don't judge the peas as bad or good or evil or anything else. We avoid that emotional attachment to peas and just say, peas are, and that's the way I feel right now.
I have something here. Yeah, it's something that Luann was saying, and it addresses both of these that I remember in this same section of the book. It says, here he says, realize how freeing it will be to not go through the gyrations of attempting to figure out how to reach acceptance of what you do not like, ! How freeing it will be to realize you have no need to do this! How freeing it will be to accept all of your feelings and not to puzzle over which are true and which are false, to realize that you no longer have false feelings, that your feelings are not misleading you, but supporting you, that they are but calling you to expression of your true self. This is the sentence I was looking for when you were talking. I thought that was pretty profound. Your feelings, that they are but calling you to expression of your true self. I mean, that is just so direct about the importance of this. To true representation of who you are and who you are now.
I like to dabble with music, and I've been writing a song, and for 2 days I struggled with this song and I'm just trying to get the words and the music to come together. And it's just the first part of the song, maybe 12 seconds worth of music, and I spent 2 days working on it and was so frustrated, so angry. And then that night I said, I took pen and paper with me and asked, please help me with this, because what I'm doing isn't working. And I had lots of options that I've created, and I wasn't sure which was the best option. And in the morning, just before I woke up, and suddenly I knew and wrote down what the option that I wanted. And then went to my computer and the keyboard and wrote the words to that particular music in 15 minutes. So it went from 2 days to writing and not getting anywhere to kind of letting go, perhaps. Maybe there was some acceptance in there. Maybe the acceptance was I needed help. And in that process of unfolding, I really thought, I like music. I like music. And was wondering, is this what I'm supposed to be doing more, is writing music? And then I thought of that string of music writing was there all my life, and I never owned it. I did what I was supposed to be doing. I did what I thought I should be doing. I did what I thought the world wanted me to do. I did what I thought I should do to be responsible. But I never listened or honored that voice and that love for music. So I just want to share that, because I'll be working on music again this week. But it is a touching thing to discover how you want to express love. Perhaps how, what Unity calls the Christ energy, how does that want to be expressed through you? And to accept that, to just simply accept that. And it is such a beautiful thing. It moves me in this moment. So thanks.
Well, okay. In closing, I want to thank Theresa for your talk on mindfulness and your wonderful meditation. It was just fun to revisit the garden and focus on the moving water that I think I've kind of passed by in my trips there in the past myself. And I'd like to thank Dave again for your wonderful music. And we should not forget Mark for the many, many hours that he spends during the week to work on our system and try and get everything all ready for a Sunday service that's the goal is to be glitch-free, of course. So let's close with the peace song and followed by the prayer of protection. Please join me in the prayer of protection. I'll say the first line and everyone repeat together the second line. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever God is, we are. And that's the truth.